Warning! This show contains truth, sarcasm, and opinions that might offend the fragile, the fake, and the fact-free. If you're still crying over student loans, still blaming Trump for your bad credit score, or still thinking your resistance tweets are saving democracy, this ain't your safe space. We don't do censorship. We don't do groupthink. And we sure as hell don't bow to any kings, self-appointed or otherwise. So grab your coffee, tighten that tinfoil, and buckle up. Because tonight, the crown's coming off, the masks are slipping, and we're diving headfirst into the madness.
This week, America's bracing for another historic moment. At least that's what the headlines are calling it. The No Kings protest is gearing up to flood D.C. and over 1,000 cities this coming weekend. Organizers promise a peaceful day of action, but early warnings from security analysts and intel groups say the event could attract paid agitators, foreign influencers, and your usual mix of social media revolutionaries looking for a viral clip. Meanwhile, the federal shutdown grinds on. Real workers still aren't getting paid, and the internet's losing its collective mind over Columbus Day. Because apparently even a calendar holiday can start a culture war now. So tonight, we're getting ahead of the noise. What's really brewing behind this No Kings movement? Who's getting squeezed by the shutdown standoff? And why does celebrating exploration make half the country lose its compass? The crew's in studio, the mics are hot, and the caffeine's loaded. This is Data and Dissonance, where free thought still reigns. All right, the coffee's hot, the mics are live, and the circus tent known as America just added a few new clowns to the act. Let's bring in the crew who makes sense of the nonsense. Or at least argue better than Congress does. First up, Brian, our resident flamethrower. The man doesn't do moderate takes. He's the human embodiment of a MAGA Fire Friday every day of the week. If there's a liberal meltdown within a 50-mile radius, Brian's already roasting marshmallows over it. Then we've got Rachel, the independent who somehow manages to survive this show without throwing a chair. She's here to decode the spin, slap sense into both sides, and remind us that not everything is a grand conspiracy. Except for the ones Daniel finds. Speaking of which, Daniel is back from his bunker, where he's been connecting red string between foreign agitators, social media bots, and a mysterious check from George Soros labeled No Kings. He swears it's all connected, and honestly, I'm starting to believe him. And rounding out the chaos, we've got Skylar, our progressive voice. She's the one who tries to bring reason, empathy, and sustainability into a show that runs on sarcasm, black coffee, and the tears of fact-checkers. She'll defend the environment, the working class, and sometimes, even CNN. And me? I'm Artie, the host, the conductor of this red, white, and blue roller coaster, trying to keep the train on the tracks while the country argues over who gets to blow the whistle. Together, we're your antidote to the algorithm. Your morning after to the media's hangover. This is Data and Dissonance. So next weekend, the so-called No Kings protest is set to roll through D.C. and more than 1,000 cities nationwide. A day of action against what organizers call Trump's creeping authoritarianism. Sounds like the trailer for a Netflix special no one asked for. Flyers are popping up on campuses, unions are hinting at walkouts, and a few non-profits with suspiciously deep pockets are promising to defend democracy from monarchy. Meanwhile, reports are already warning that the crowd might include paid agitators and foreign social media influence. Same playbook, new hashtag. So here's the question. Is this a genuine citizen pushback or another astroturfed production designed to spark chaos before election 2026 even begins? Brian, kick us off.
I'll tell you right now, this has the fingerprints of the same political marketing machine that gave us the resistance and defund the police. These No Kings folks aren't defending democracy. They're auditioning for cable news contracts. Half of them will be TikTok streaming from taxpayer-funded smartphones, and the other half will be interns for left-wing PACs who think chanting is civic engagement. You want to protest monarchy? Great. Maybe start with the unelected bureaucrats writing half our laws. This whole thing feels scripted, and the media's already setting the stage so that if one hothead throws a punch, it's somehow Trump's fault.
So it's the Hollywood version of a revolution. All lighting, no soul. Rachel, you've covered real protest movements. How do you see this one shaping up?
There's definitely coordination, but there's also authentic frustration mixed in. You've got government workers who haven't been paid for weeks because of the shutdown, students drowning in inflation, and families tired of the political ping pong. Some of those people are sincere, they just don't realize they're being used as extras in somebody else's political screenplay. The danger is that when everything becomes performative, the real voices get drowned out. Americans have a right to protest. They just need to make sure the megaphone isn't being rented out by foreign interests or DC consultants.
Daniel, I can practically hear you taping yarn to the wall already. What's the conspiracy board look like on this one?
You don't even need a red string, brother. Follow the money. The same digital ad firms that ran climate justice and racial equity campaigns in 2023 are now behind No Kings. They're funneling micro-donations through offshore processors, masking who's actually paying for the messaging. Add in a few foreign social media volunteers from the EU and Asia, and you've got a perfectly engineered feedback loop. Bots amplify outrage, media legitimizes it, and suddenly we're talking about monarchy instead of real corruption. It's not just about chaos, it's about narrative control. Divide the people, dilute the truth, dominate the feed.
So according to Daniel, the protest might not need paid agitators. The algorithm's doing it for free. Skylar, you're our progressive heartbeat. Defend your people. Is there any part of this that still looks authentic to you?
Sure. A lot of regular folks are genuinely worried about the direction of the country. They see Trump consolidating power, and they're scared of what they call authoritarian drift. But I agree, the professional activism industry hijacks everything. If this turns violent or chaotic, the left loses the moral high ground it's trying to reclaim. Real protest should be about policy, not performance. And right now, both sides are addicted to drama. I'll support anyone marching peacefully, but the minute you bring in outside money and online manipulation, it stops being democracy and starts being theater.
Fair take, Skylar. So whether this weekend's No Kings March ends up as a peaceful civic stand or another media-made spectacle, one thing's for sure. Every camera in DC will be rolling, every pundit will be performing, and every American will be forced to pick a side in a play none of us auditioned for. Stay tuned, because when the crowd starts chanting, we'll be watching who's actually holding the megaphone. All right, we're now in day 12 of this mess. Federal agencies are scrambling, workers are panicking, and the usual political posturing is now a human crisis. The Smithsonian just shut down museums. Layoff notices are being sent, and the Trump administration is floating the idea that back pay isn't even guaranteed. Meanwhile, Americans are left wondering, is this strategic leverage or cruelty for political gain? Let's unpack. At what point does political brinkmanship stop being strategy and start being cruelty? And is either side actually winning this standoff? So Brian, start us off.
Let me tell you, this isn't strategic. It's nuclear. The idea that you'd put hundreds of thousands of civil servants in limbo, no pay, no security, just to make a point? That's not governance. It's hostage-taking. But is anyone winning? Right now, Republicans think the public has a short memory. Democrats believe outrage will eventually force a surrender. Meanwhile, the people in the crossfire lose. This might be a clever power play if you're detached from human cost, but whoever thought this was a good idea needs a reality check.
Rachel, as someone who's been in the trenches covering shutdowns, where are we compared to the past?
This one's worse. In past shutdowns, there was always pressure to resolve before major agencies collapsed. But now, they're escalating. Around 900,000 federal workers are reportedly furloughed, and another approximately 700,000 are still working without pay. The IRS is furloughing nearly half its staff. We're seeing agency by agency breakdowns. The Trump administration has even challenged the notion that back pay is automatic, citing a new interpretation of the law. So the deviation from precedent is stark. The institutions we expect to hold under stress, museums, research agencies, public health, are already collapsing. The question is, how long until public patience snaps?
Daniel, cue your conspiracy radar. What's going on behind the scenes here?
You want to see the real plan? It's not just hurt 'em till they blink. It's re-engineering the federal workforce. Layoff notices are already going out. OMB is executing RIF, reduction in force, moves at agencies. The plan is to shrink government services, purge certain programs, and consolidate power under fewer agencies that align ideologically. And about back pay, the administration's trying to change the script. The Office of Management and Budget, OMB, now says back pay isn't guaranteed under the 2019 GEFTA law unless Congress appropriates it. That's a bait and switch. Use coercion now, delay compensation later, then claim no legal obligation. In short, this standoff is the vehicle they're using to accelerate a broader redefinition of federal power.
Skylar, you're looking at this from the policy and people side. What's the human cost and how bad can it get?
It's already bad. Workers can't pay rent or buy groceries. Families are scrambling. Some federal services are in chaos. Public health programs, inspections, national labs are seeing halts. Agencies are closing parts of their operations, such as Smithsonian institutions, as cash dries up. And if back pay is denied or delayed, trust in government erodes entirely. When your promise is, we'll sort it out later, it doesn't help a family this month. Politically, it's a minefield. Voters don't remember budget line items. They remember being screwed over. This could turn the entire narrative against whoever's seen as the side that hurt people.
So we're in a showdown where the middle gets crushed, the institutions start collapsing, and the rules might be rewritten on the fly. Let me drop this on you. In real politics, losing the public is death. If the narrative becomes, they don't care about people, even your loudest supporters will question it. So while Washington melts down over the shutdown, the internet's on fire over something entirely different: Columbus Day. President Trump signed an executive proclamation Friday officially reinstating Columbus Day as a federal holiday, reversing years of agencies swapping it for Indigenous Peoples Day. Cue the hysteria. Universities called it erasure. Activists declared imperialism's comeback tour. And Trump told a crowd in Ohio, "We celebrate the spirit of discovery, not destruction." So tonight's question for the crew: why does every tradition become a battlefield now? And is defending history the same as defending heritage? Brian, you've been waiting for this one.
Oh, I've been itching for this one. Every year it's the same script. Some sociology professor with 3 followers on Threads tries to cancel an explorer who's been dead for 500 years. Trump didn't erase Indigenous Peoples Day. He just said we can honor exploration without burning down the calendar. Columbus Day isn't about worshiping one man. It's about the idea that discovery, courage, and risk-taking built the West. But the left hates anything that reminds America it used to be brave. They'd rather teach our kids that achievement equals oppression. So yeah, defending Columbus Day isn't nostalgia, it's rebellion against revisionism.
The man came in swinging like he's sailing the Nina through cancel culture. Rachel, you tend to play referee when history turns into a cage match. Where do you land on this?
Honestly, both sides are missing something. Yes, history's messy, but pretending erasing names solves anything is dishonest. The people demanding Columbus Day disappear act like we can edit history the way we edit a tweet. But keeping it doesn't mean ignoring Indigenous pain either. We can recognize both truths: the voyage that changed the world and the human cost that followed. That's what mature nations do. They wrestle with contradictions. The culture war turns everything into all or nothing when reality lives somewhere in between. Teaching history in full context is how you keep both heritage and honesty.
Daniel, you've got that "I just connected 3 centuries of conspiracies" look. What's your angle here?
Here's the thing. This fight isn't really about Columbus. It's about control of the story. When you erase national symbols, you rewrite who the heroes and villains are. Academia and big tech amplify certain narratives while burying others. Suddenly, exploration becomes colonialism, patriotism becomes fascism, and questioning the rewrite gets you labeled extremist. That's psychological warfare 101. Change the myth, change the memory, change the meaning of the nation. Today, it's Columbus. Tomorrow, it's Washington, Lincoln, even the flag itself. The end goal? A country that forgets what it was so it can be told what to become.
Skylar, you're shaking your head like you just watched someone microwave tinfoil. Go ahead, make your case.
I'll be real, Thane. I think Trump's proclamation was pure provocation. He knows it fires up his base and enrages progressives, and that's the point. But Daniel's right about one thing. Stories matter. We just disagree on which ones to honor. Indigenous Peoples Day isn't about erasing history. It's about broadening it. You can celebrate courage without ignoring consequences. We're finally mature enough as a country to tell the whole story, not just the parts that make us feel heroic. Patriotism should be rooted in truth, not mythology. If the right truly wants to preserve heritage, include everyone who paid the price for it.
And there it is. 4 angles, 1 holiday, and a nation still arguing over who gets the parade. Maybe the real American tradition isn't Columbus Day at all. It's debating what America means every time we hang the flag. All right, folks, stick around. When we come back, we'll hit final thoughts, then wrap tonight's show with a reminder of what fuels this crew every day. All right, crew, what a ride tonight. From professional protesters to payless patriots to the culture wars that never sleep. We've covered fake revolutions, real economic pain, and a holiday that somehow manages to offend everyone and unite no one. Before we close out, I want to hand it off to each of you for your final word on what all this says about where America's really headed, and what the rest of us can still hold on to while the loudest voices fight for the microphone.
Here's what I'm seeing, man. This country's drowning in staged outrage. Whether it's protests funded by think tanks or shutdowns used like bargaining chips, the people in charge treat Americans like props in a bad play. But here's the thing about real Americans. We're stubborn. We keep showing up. We keep building. We keep believing in something bigger than the headlines. So while the left tweets and tantrums, I'll be here grilling, paying taxes, and raising a flag that still means something. The elite can have their hashtags. We've got heart.
I think tonight proved we're in an identity crisis. People want heroes and villains because nuance doesn't trend. But democracy isn't supposed to be a movie with good guys and bad guys. It's a messy conversation that never ends. If we want things to get better, we've got to stop waiting for politicians or pundits to fix it. Start with your neighborhood, your family, your own integrity. Truth isn't found in outrage. It's found in the quiet moments when nobody's performing.
Every story we covered tonight has one thread running through it: control of information. From the narratives behind protests, to the manipulation of shutdown messaging, to the rewriting of history, everything comes down to who shapes the perception. That's why independent voices matter. When they tell you not to question something, that's exactly when you should. Freedom dies in silence, and the antidote is curiosity. Don't take the script, rewrite it yourself.
What I take away from tonight is that America's still worth arguing about. Yeah, we fight, we clash, we contradict each other. But that's because we still care. The moment we stop disagreeing is the moment democracy dies. I want people to remember that empathy isn't weakness, it's strategy. You can love your country and still want it to evolve. The flag belongs to everyone who's brave enough to keep questioning what it means.
You know, I think that's what makes this show, and this country, so damn wild. We can sit here, 4 completely different viewpoints, and still find common ground in the chaos. We can debate, roast, laugh, and still shake hands at the end of it. That's the America I fight for. Not perfect, not polished, but free. The kind of place where disagreement isn't a crime and questioning authority isn't rebellion. It's patriotism. So while the world scrolls through noise, keep listening for truth. And remember what we always say here at Data and Dissonance. Speak truth. Stir thought. Tonight's episode was brought to you by the Caleb Rourke Thriller series. The Covenant Protocol and the Prophet Directive are out now, and Black Echo Rising drops this December. If you love government secrets, Black Ops intrigue, and a hero who refuses to bow to power, these are your kind of books. And while you're at it, fuel your next argument with the official Data and Dissonance coffee line. Roasted in the USA, inspired by the show. High Lakes Blend, light roast with citrus and milk chocolate notes for the early risers. Rock Creek Blend, medium roast with that toffee dark chocolate finish that keeps the conversation rolling. Bitterroot Blend, bold French roast, strong enough to wake the Constitution. Grab them along with all the Gen X apparel and patriotic gear at dataanddissonance.printify.me because free speech tastes better with caffeine. That's gonna do it for tonight, folks. Big thanks to Brian, Rachel, Daniel, and Skylar for bringing the heat, and to you for riding with us through another dose of red-blooded reality. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. sharp with a brand new episode. Same time, same truth. Until then, stay sharp, stay free, and never let the noise drown out the signal.